Well, one thing I wanted to ask you about, and I have to use the glasses because I have to read something. So Joan said in an interview regarding songwriting, you have to sit and write crappy lyrics that you know are ridiculous just to get something down. Then you can go through it and start fixing them. But sometimes that part is the hardest part. And I'm just curious, would you say it's the same when it comes to writing a drum part for a song?
Um, ye- I, I don't. I mean, maybe the simplicity part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, for me, but even lyrically, man, I mean, like the last band that I was in, the Bouncing Souls, there was a point where, like there we all had like composition books, and
Mm-hmm.
we all sat around and it was like, what do you have? What's your idea? And you had there was a couple of main lyricists. When people are singing the words, they tend to want to write them a little bit more,
Yeah,
unless
yeah.
unless you're in Rush and you just let Neil Peart write all the lyrics because
Right,
he's
right.
better than you.
Yeah.
Um but um but there's that. I think there's like a round robin you go through. There's definitely, I think, with some bands, there's a couple lines from this guy, a couple lines from that guy, like a line, and then like maybe the words wrong. And so I think that sort of happens with a lot of bands. Drum
Mm-hmm.
wise, I sort of do that for sure, where when I tend, especially here and in the pandemic and figuring out, it was really awesome. I mean, again, not to say that the pandemic was awesome, but
Right.
if you utilized your time
Yeah.
correctly and you did stuff, and you then it was cool. Then it was really it was a great way to like to be with your family, or to learn a new craft, learn a language. But yeah, I would say that for sure. When in starting a drum part, I try to tend to keep it, at least the first pass, pretty simple. And
Mm-hmm.
then when you
Mm-hmm.
go back and you listen, then you hear different spots that you can embellish, or you need a crash there, I need a fill going into the next part. But yeah, for the most part, I mean, I tend to keep it pretty simple, starting out, at least. I mean, there's definitely some stuff that you go to do that you're like, oh boy, I really have to. Oh, I got to jump right. It's like really just jumping on the train immediately, and the train's going, 80 miles an
Yeah.
hour, and so you're like, okay, right into it. Here we go. But yeah, it depends. It really depends on the thing,
Okay. I mean, because
words
the
or music.
yeah, because and the other reason I asked that, is and I've brought this up before, is there's that new-ish Beatles documentary, Get Back, I think is the name of it, where they're recording the album.
Yep.
And one of the cool things to me is that you see, they bring in songs, Paul brings in songs, and then everything. But you see Ringo, and he's like, okay, where can I best fit in
Yep.
the midst of this? And he's trying to figure out his parts as they're demoing stuff
Yep.
for him. And to me, which was just fascinating, because it's going to be, it'll eventually become iconic, but just to see the gears spinning as it happens.
Yep. 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 Yeah, Ringo was smart that way, man. Where I mean, he was really adept at melody and words, but I mean, they sort of he sort of stayed in his spot, man. He kind of knew. I mean, you have like three of the best songwriters in the world that are so to degree, you have to sort of sit back and just sort of be like,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, what's next? Wow, oh wow, oh wow. I, so, and it's cool, but it's funny, I haven't seen that, but I did the McCartney 3-2-1,
Oh,
I
I haven't
guess, is
seen
that
that one. Okay.
with Rick Rubin.
Yeah. All right.
And they're like kind of over a board, and they sort of go through stuff, and they can sort of pull faders up and down. Paul can really be like, well, listen here, listen to this, and
Yeah.
that was kind of neat and pretty insightful, in the same way that I'm sure Get Back is. Why I haven't watched Get Back, I don't know. um, but yeah, I love stuff like that. It really sort of brings you into the frame of what was happening at the time. Yeah, I mean, as a drummer, man, if you're a smart drummer, if you're really in that thing, I mean, but I bet you your Ringos, your Charlie Watts. There's probably a lot of there's as much to listening to what's happening when that songwriting round robin is going on. So even if you're just sort of sitting there, your brain has to be moving so that, because the eventuality that they're like, all right, well, let's try this thing. And then if you haven't been in tune, then you're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so you have to have that. And I've been there too, which then makes you sit and take more notice when people are going through notebooks and stuff, and you're trying to formulate your own ideas so that when it does come to fruition, you have a kind of a starting point for yourself of where you're going to go.
Yeah.
Because when they go, okay, here we go. If you just go what, where, what are you talking about? Like,
right.
It helps to just sort of be in tune a little, listen to your bandmates, listen to what's going on.
Yeah.
Again, unless you're Neil Peart and you're like, listen, this is how this is going.
Right.
These are the words, so you guys figure something out. Like,
right. Yeah.
But yeah. So.
And then speaking of Charlie Watts, I mean, since his passing, I've been on this big Rolling Stones kick and just listening to especially their later stuff, which I think they released some fantastic songs even in their most recent albums.
Yep.
But what I noticed is Charlie Watts' playing is busier than I remember it, but it's subtly busy, if that makes any kind of sense. He'll throw in a little bit back and forth here and there, but it's even under lyrics, but it's not intrusive in a way. And I would say that's the difference between, him and Ringo, I guess. I don't know. How would you, because those are the two, guys that really set the stage. How would you differentiate them?
I think Charlie had way more jazz chops. And so I think some of those subtleties that you hear with Charlie are like ghost notes and some little just embellishments or even, I mean, not to say that Ringo wasn't swinging at all.
Yeah,
Ringo was swinging. But I mean, Charlie's a swinger. He just is. And so I think maybe some of that stuff. They just, both guys had just like, could just read and play for the song. And again, when you make them, I mean, because if it wasn't all, all the puzzle pieces, all the cogs have to come together. I mean, they're just as much a part of making those songs iconic as the words and melody.
Yeah.
So I mean, and when you and it's funny, you really want when you're crafting a drum part, you really want, and I had a great producer, fella named Ted Hutt, say, you want stuff that people can play on their steering wheel, on their dashboard, on their laps. You want, and it like, I mean, the beginning of I Love Rock and Roll.
Oh,
yeah. I mean, like that lends to everybody feeling what that feels like, because that's not, I mean, don't get me wrong, I mean, you can't just rush it. There's a feel to it, but I mean, it makes you feel like, you're part of that thing. I mean, that was one of the best things about playing along to like the Beatles or Charlie. Phil Rudd, AC/DC was amazing because you weren't really copying their thing.
Yeah.
But they made you feel like it was close enough to you that you could enjoy it. And even as a kid, you knew you weren't like, maybe you weren't in it, but you were like, I am close. I'm so close. I'm so close. I think maybe if I just, and there's the, there was that point. That's what got me into stuff like that and didn't get me. Nothing against Rush, but that's it. And plus, in my world of where I lived, we already had the Rush guy. There was like a Rush dude who had the thing and could play. And you were like, okay, well, is there a Bonham guy? I'll be the Bonham. Can I be the Bonham guy?
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's one of those things. It just made it feel like it was you could grab it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean,
S-
because to bring up the friend who introduced us, Troy Luccketta of Tesla,
yeah.
when a couple of years ago they came out with an album that was produced by Phil Collen of Def Leppard,
Yep.
and Troy talks about, because I asked, well, what kind of he's a guitarist. I'm curious what kind of direction he gave you. And he said, yeah, he came in and he goes, I want people to be able to air drum this record. And he's like, got it.
Oh wow.
Well,
yeah,
and
yeah.
that speaks exactly to what you're saying.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it's true. You want everybody to be in it. You
Mm-hmm.
want people to be so stoked. It's cool to want to look out and like, and maybe they're not playing what I'm playing, but like their hands are moving, and you're like, yes, there you go. Like,
Right.
It's cool. I mean, it brings them more into the show than them just sitting there being like waiting for an iconic fill that, even if they did play, they'll never cop, I don't know. There's something way cooler about simpler drum parts, and again, not that, Charlie he's just so good, but I think but to get back around again to you, I think that's really it. I think it's his jazz chops. I think he just had more jazz chops than Ringo did.
Yeah.
And so some of the little subtleties on the snare, some of the little ghost notes, some of the swing you hear on Charlie's Ride,
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's just a little bit more pronounced than than Ringo's would be.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I don't know.
Right.
You I'm sure the message board could light up and it'd be like, no.
No, right.
Ringo had, because it always does. And it's awesome. I love that. One of the best things I did, I was at like a drummers thing in Philly once.
Okay.
And and I had just seen Abe Laboriel Jr. do some stuff. Who's an amazing drummer.
Speaking of McCartney, he's been McCartney's drummer for a long time.
And so I saw him play a bunch of Beatles stuff.
Okay.
And like there were all these dudes like at this like drummers round table thing, whatever. And I just was like, and I was like, well, I mean, don't you think that like Abe kind of like does what Ringo does, but just better? And you kind of had a collective like, and I was like, I just wanted to see, because they, but I mean, it's that, it's even that where that Abe Laboriel Jr. could play anything, but even in that context, even Abe Laboriel Jr. would probably tell you, nightly, I am trying to cop Ringo's shit so hard.
Yes.
And still may, and some nights you may be like, I feel like I got kind of close to. I mean, I have that because I some of the drum parts I play are some great drummers. And so sometimes I'm like, I got it. Or sometimes I'm like, fuck, God, your pocket is so deeper. Right. I gotta dig deeper. How do I get deeper?
Yeah.
I need bigger boots or something. So but yeah, just that, man. I think his jazz chops.
Yeah. And it's interesting because it does bring out the two extremes of, you can have an insane jazz drummer like a Billy Cobham or someone like that, where it's just, oh my God, I can't even believe the stuff that he's pulling off and, that kind of thing. But, and then to the other side though, it's like, and it's not taking away one from the other, but then to the other side, it's like, I've seen people who have never held a pair of sticks or had any music lessons whatsoever. When they get to that part of Phil Collins in the Air Tonight, they all air drum that one particular section, and it's like, wow, if you can grab people like that, and it's like, oh my God, I totally feel this, then fantastic.
That was the thing as a kid when people found out when when they were like, oh, you play drums? Can you play In the Air Tonight?
Yeah.
And you're like, I swear to God, like that was one of the first questions inevitably that I would receive all the time. Can you play In the Air Tonight? I don't know. I think maybe. Yeah. I mean, one of the better things, like another great drummer, like Chester Thompson, who played right along with Phil. I mean, he doesn't get nearly as much accolades as he should. I mean, like, not that Phil Collins isn't great, but I mean, Chester Thompson was amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
Chester Thompson kept Genesis moving, man. I mean, it's just such a great band. So, but yeah, he's another amazing drummer.
Right. You know, you're following in the footsteps of a giant. And so,
Oh yeah.
you know, it's,
So you better be pretty good.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. You better be pretty good. Yeah.
Right. And then just to back up a little bit. So you were talking about, you know, one of the quote great things of the pandemic, you know, and that was kind of where we got cut off last time was just, you know, the music business and musicians just got the crap kicked out of them by, you know, the pandemic. Because, you know, when you have a business that's built where you only get paid when you play in front of crowds of people, and then make it so you can't play in front of a crowd. But again, you know, somehow adapted and you know, pushed through, and you guys released, you know, videos, these remote videos and stuff. So, you know, I'm just curious, asking you, but trying to take it out to the wider perspective, how have you always been able to not just survive but thrive in an industry and an environment that's always so unstable?
It's super tough, man. It's you have to just, like, a lot of PMA, man, a lot of positive mental attitude, a lot of like, I mean, that's probably part of the reason I moved to Florida, was just the sun. I mean, I was just outside minutes before coming in the Red Room. It's bright and sunny out. It's gorgeous. I mean, I'm going to take a ride after I do like long bike rides. I was up a little too early with my girlfriend. She had to go to a doctor's appointment, so up a little too early. 5:30 a.m. was a little earlier than I wanted.
Yeah.
But just that, man. The sun, trying to stay positive, trying to stay healthy. Like, you know, the stuff you put in your body. I mean, yeah, I drink too much soda. But I mean, for the most part, I try to, there's just all of that, all of it together, it's all a combined thing. The people you surround yourself with, how you treat yourself, how you treat others, and just wanting to do this so bad that you just sort of find a way. And I always have found a way, you know, whether, I mean, I was a house painter for the longest time, and I've, you know, in different occasions in my life have fallen back on doing high-end house painting. Because you know, I'm not one of those people who sits around and is like, I'm going to make it. Well, no, you can't make it on nothing. You have to eat. And you need to buy drum heads and sticks and all this stuff, or whatever it is, gas in your car. So I always was kind of a little more hungrier and just was like, let's make it kind of happen, instead of like just seeing like if like somebody's going to do it for me.
Right.
I think you have to be more of a hunter gatherer than sort of like, I'm going to make it guy. And then also, what is making it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The big thing for me, man, I'll give you a good one if you want to. Here, I'll go off on a little mini tangent for you.
Yeah.
Surviving during the pandemic, it's definitely, I'll tell you what, not just the pandemic, but in the business now, because the model has changed. Where, and I definitely don't want to sound like a disgruntled old man in the industry, but it has changed, and I'm not sure that it's changed completely for the better. You got a lot of bean counters that want to see how many likes do you have, what post did you have, and how many likes. What's the highest number of posts that you had? When did you post it? How many likes did you have? And you're kind of like, what? No pun intended. But I mean, I just, in my, and those are the people that are getting things now. Like when I was a kid, you didn't get a free pair of sticks or something unless you played in front of a lot of people. Now you playing in front of a lot of people, meaning you could just have to go into a room this size, and this could be your likes. You don't have to go play a show. You've never
Right.
had to get in a van and sleep on the floor of a van in you know, central Kansas in the middle of January.
Right.
You've like none of that shit. No pun. Sorry, my French.
No, people
But
swear on this all the
pardon my
time.
French. But it's like that, and so there is a whole and I'm saying this, I guess, as an addition to that. I'm maybe going to add a question. I wonder how some of my compatriots have handled a lot of this as well, because it's an ever shifting environment. And again, the kids that are running the world are not kids that have been in vans and loading in cars and playing out 3 times a week. I mean, some of those kids are hustlers, man, but I mean, for the most part, they set up fancy lights in a room like this, and they post videos of you and I had this discussion of songs that they don't quite really know.
Yeah.
But that has just, has the pandemic has expounded on that exponentially. And now that is almost like, and rightfully so, because a lot of those people were like, I can't go play a live show anyway.
Right.
You can't go play a live show.
Yeah.
But I can do this. And like, so I get, and so kudos to adapting to that. But I think there's, when I come in here, it's kind of like watching videos of somebody like working out. You're like, I don't want to see the build up to the game. Just show me the game. Like, I don't want to, I mean, I get like, but when I come in here, and it's funny, and I just had to redo like an artist endorsement thing.
Okay.
And so I won't name the company,
Mm-hmm.
but they say all the things I'm talking about. What's your Instagram? How many followers? What's what your Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, everything. What's your all those? How many things do you have? And so, and in my section, in the comments section on the bottom, they were like, why blank? Why would you think, And I was like, this may come off as trite, and I might see, or maybe I'm just a disgruntled old drummer. I was like, I don't post as many. When I practice, or when I think about playing drums, it's for my craft, and for the betterment of my craft. And I don't have time to set up fancy lights and put on outfits and play along to it. Like, I'm practicing for actual tours, actual recording sessions, dates, things that I'm doing. Like, it's not to get the number of likes. And I said to them, if I don't get re-endorsed, I said, that's fine. I'll still buy your product because it works.
Yeah.
I was like, regardless of whether you want to endorse me on my likes or not, I will just still be a consumer because I
like the product.
I think heavily. I think that much of what you do and what you've made. But that's where we're at, Chris. Is you're in this world of likes and how many that's why some of these companies are like, do we take away the like button? Did give it, or like we're giving the like button? Was that a better thing? Was that a bad thing? Do you give people more control? And I don't know. I'm still on that fence, and I have a couple of like ideas of like how I would want to manipulate social media, but it would be like, it's silly. I still, when I think about it, when I come into my room, I just really want to make sure my coffee is filled. I want to make sure my grinder has enough shit in it, and I just want to go to work. I don't want to be like, cool, is the lighting good? Can you see me? Oh, I don't give one shit. My French again. I just want to make sure that when Joan turns around and goes, okay, like that, I know. I want to know what the meter is and how I'm counting it off. I want to be secure in the feel of when on that fourth hit, what I'm going into. Yeah. Again, I don't have time for all the other BS. But that's kind of where we're at, sadly enough. And the pandemic, to keep in with your question, I think it helped me And I probably should have maybe embraced that more, but I embraced more of the, wow, I can play. I never have to leave my house. They're actually telling me, don't leave your house.
Yeah.
And so it was like, you know, it was a way to fully immerse myself into this thing as a 53-year-old man that I've loved, you know, and that I've been probably doing for 48 years, 49 years. So I love it. And it's done a lot of good stuff. I think some might, you know, maybe a little bit made it bad.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know that exists out there. I'm always amazed at the ignorance of people like that just don't get how it works, in the sense of so many of those numbers, number one, are completely fake by people that just buy followers. And I can send you a couple of articles, you know, where like the New York Times proved all this and went into these follower factories, they call them, you know, and my favorite...
no, I keep getting stuff all the time. Do you want to improve your follower count by 10,000? You can buy 10,000, 20,000 followers. Like,
yeah. And, you know, my favorite was there was one supermodel who had 1 million followers on Twitter, and they proved that 900,000 of them were fake accounts, you know. And so I'm amazed at, well, to be harsh, the stupidity of some of these people that actually base their financial business decisions on those numbers that are faked by everyone. And, you know, and then two, I mean, I know it's, there's the comparison thing that goes on. And I've had clients that go, you know, how come this person has so many likes and attention? And I'm like, well, she's a very pretty woman who's wearing very little clothing, and she can't play well, but that's not why people are watching the video.
Yep.
And, you know, and then once you get out of COVID, though, it doesn't translate to reality, that there are bands out there with 1 million followers who, you know, I have a band that I work with who has like 70, 80,000, but they can fill a 500 seat venue, you know, whereas there are bands with 1 million followers that can't fill a mid-sized sedan, you know.
Yeah.
And so
yeah, that's what I mean. There's something to be said about traveling long distances in a horrible vehicle that you're not sure is going to make it or not. You might break down, you might not have anything to eat, just to play to the other bands plus a couple of their friends, and then get in the same shitty vehicle and do it all over again 30 some more times. And there's I mean, when, you know, to be a doctor, you have to go, to be a lawyer, what I used to call it is merit. And like, and we don't base things, some stuff is based on merit. Like I play baseball. I play baseball every Sunday. I play for the Boca Mets.
Okay.
Am I good? No, not at all. I am okay. And I have a great time going there. And if I get a hit, I get a hit. If I get hit by a pitch, I'm like, thank you very much. That's a free base for me. And it's just fun. And I love it. And I work at it. Can I go try out for like even the Brooklyn Cyclones, which is like a AA of the Met? No, fuck no. And I don't have that, like, I don't have that illusion or disillusion in my head that I can.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, I mean, again, there's no merit. There is no, like, I've done X amount of things to get to here.
Right.
It's not that. It's like, I know how to edit good videos.
Yeah.
And you're just like, wow, okay.
Right,
wow.
right.
My parents brought me 2 GoPros, so I have 2 different angles.
Right.
And you're just like, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Like, holy. And then, yeah, I mean, again, that's, the bean counters are all about it. And it's funny because I have friends in companies that talk about that and are like, I'm really sorry, the bean counters want this. And like so there's no bones about it in the industry. Like, the higher ups are just looking at those counts, and a lot of people know it's not right. But I mean, you know, you do what you got to do. You keep moving along. And again, I don't really want to play. That's not why I started playing drums.
Yeah.
To get free stuff. And again, I love coming in here every day. I love just trying to find stuff. It's funny that you're talking about a Stones thing, because I've been like just kind of going on this like more Charlie kick lately. And so just coming in here to just cop his and just that, like, I don't have to film it though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't want to film it. Like I'm trying to actually learn something. It's like studying for the bar exam. Like, do you film yourself and do you have like perfect hair and lipstick and you're like, and you look at the camera and you purse your lips? No, you're studying to the fucking bar exam. Like it's hard work. There's nothing fun about it. Yeah. And hopefully you pass, and then you can be like, well, you know what I mean? But there's all that work, that stuff that's, you know, merit is based on, that I think we've kind of lost a little of. You know what I mean? There's just a lot of, and the internet has made it that you could be anything you want and famous at it. Yeah. Not maybe rightfully so, but I mean, look at some of the biggest. I mean, look at, like, just even say Kim Kardashian. Say. She just got to wear we're talking about iconic things. She just got to wear the Marilyn Monroe dress. Yes. Now, how does a woman whose career was based upon a sex tape that her mother released, how is that? But again, those are the icons that and women, girls are looking up to. And you're like, and again, and then she, you know, had the famous thing about the women not working. I don't think anybody wants to work. And you're like, oh my God, like, but, and it's almost like doubling down on like, I don't do anything and I'm gonna fucking, and you're just like, but again, not that she probably doesn't work at whatever she does to build her brand. Yeah. But I mean, like, it's, you know, you weren't this thing. And then you were like, wow, you were so amazing at blank. Yes. That, like, you know, you became, you know, it was all based on something entirely different. Right. Paris Hilton, same kind of shit, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
And where you're just like, aren't these the iconoclasts that we're trying to smash? Isn't that isn't that the smashing of those? Like there's real icons that some of these girls, and having, you know, a daughter that you want them to look up to and you want them to idolize it. And there's certain people that you don't. Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, there's that, man. But that whole merit thing, there's just so many meritless musicians. Yes. I think. And again, if you're doing it because you just love it, you go into your basement, your bedroom, your attic, wherever you go, I mean, and just do it because you love it, then awesome. But I think that ideology gets lost on a certain amount of kids today. And it's sad. Yeah. It's just sad. Yeah. All right. Well, I think actually we got 4 minutes left on the timer before it kicks us again. Okay. Well, you know what, my friend? I thank you. Thank you for having me. I love Bands to Fans, and what you do. I love all your stuff. I love listening to all of your interviews. And thanks, man. It's cool, man. It's just you're very personable, and you make people want to spill their guts. So yeah, well, yeah, and again, I have no brand, I have no talent in this area. I just like doing it. I don't know how to be famous. But you have a Weapons of Mass Percussion shirt on. Yes, so. I do. So how can that be wrong? Yeah. Again, though, seriously, all the love to you and your family. Oh, well, thank you. Hope all is well. Let's stay in touch, and hopefully I'll get to see you one of these days. Yeah, in person, one of these times. Yes, in person would be good. So. Right. All right, brother, you be good.